Hi, this is Maryland Comptroller Peter Franchot. I may not listen to every podcast out there, but I do listen to the Maryland Crabs.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
Whether it's Main Street, your street, or any street in the county that we all live in and love and call Anne Arundel, it's a special place. But part of living here is having a bank that provides what you need when you need it. So when your plans and dreams call for a bank, turn to us, your neighbor. We're Severn Bank, supporting the community that supports us. I'm Alan Hyatt, chairman of Severn Bank, and it's our honor to be the bank that serves the people of Anne Arundel County. One thing that we never forget is that as a member of this community, it's our responsibility to be committed to helping you and our county thrive. Like you, we live here, we work here, and we play here. Severn Bank, we're here with you.
Online at severnbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Severn Bank is a trade name used by Severn Savings Bank.
Spring is here, and baseball season is here. Is your lawn ready for a game of catch or batting practice with the kids? Turn to the lawn and garden experts at Homestead Gardens and learn what products they recommend for a healthy green lawn. Homestead Gardens carries the widest selection of natural and organic garden solutions for a kid, pet, and environmentally safe lawn. Because lawns aren't just for looking at, they're for playing in. Visit homesteadgardens.com for weekly deals, inspiration, and more. Live life outdoors this season with Homestead Gardens, Davidsonville, and Severna Park.
Hey, we're here at the Commons with Jeremy Browning, who is the executive director, would that be the right word?
Founder and chair.
Of Annapolis Pride, which is a relatively new organization, which I am absolutely thrilled to see in Annapolis. And before we get going, I want to, it'll tie in a little bit later, but I want to tell a story about 15 years ago. I owned several travel agencies in town. My office, we went down to New Orleans and we had a dinner at a place called Lucky Chang's, and my office took me out there and they thought it would be great. They knew I hated seafood, so they were going to try to play a joke on me, whether to take me to a seafood place or to Lucky Chang's, which was hard to say, it's sort of like a cross-dressing drag bar kind of a thing. They had one in New York, and they had various people that were in various stages of transition, and they had just some people that were impersonators and everything else. It was a hysterically fun night, probably one of the best nights I've ever had. And I said, well, this is funny. I had a staff of mostly females. I said, I would like to fly some of these entertainers up to Annapolis for our Christmas show and sort of throw it back at them in front of their husbands and everything else like that. It would be great. And then I said, well, Annapolis is a little bit puckered. So I said, I'm going to just check with the places that I want to have my Christmas party and just see if they're cool with it. Because I would plan to put them up at the hotel, out on Riva Road or out at the mall. We'd bring them in a car. They would perform their show and, whatever they do. And every place said no. Chart House. I mean, we're talking private rooms, Buddies, Treaty of Paris, And I was like, wow, okay. So I had somewhat of a reputation in town. I didn't want to ruin it or, do anything. And I was like, okay, well, we went to a plan B on that year. But now you fast forward here into, now, and this is amazing that we have drag brunches. They've had 3 or 4 shows at Ram's Head with the drag shows. Annapolis Pride, the mayor is embracing not Annapolis Pride, but just Pride Week, and there's going to be an Annapolis Pride Parade. There's going to be all sorts of events going out, and a lot of that, most of that, I would venture to say all of that, is attributable to you.
So I think there was a thread that just needed to be pulled, and I pulled the thread, and it all came down. But it's been really incredible to see the city, the mayor's office, all the businesses, community groups, come together and welcome us here.
I mean, I think it's fantastic that, and obviously some times have certainly changed. We've looked into, we've legalized, gay marriage, same-sex marriage. What do you think has changed? What has changed in Annapolis? And before we got on recording, we were talking about that you're a native. So you've been here for all of your 20-some-odd years as I look across the table at you. So
32.
Okay, 30. So I wasn't too far off. But, you've been here for all your 32 years, so you've seen what the town can be, what it was, and what it's looking to be.
I think the public sentiment has changed, that in general, everyone's more educated and more accepting than they were just a few years ago. And
I think that you're seeing that back 30 years ago when I was in high school, okay, there was a stereotype of...
20 years ago? 30 years ago?
Okay, all right, well... Math isn't my strong suit, so we'll just let that roll.
Well, about 10 to 15 years ago when I was in high school.
Yeah, I've got brown hair. Leave me alone, okay? But there was a stereotype of the gay guy or the gay woman and whatnot, and I think that we've turned around and we've seen that is totally not the case anymore. Certainly, there are stereotypes of that, as there are stereotypes of you name it, whether it be Jewish people, Italian people, whatever it is, but. It's just not the case, and I think it's just an incredible societal shift that we've got.
It's been a sea change for the last, and I was thinking about this on the drive over, about those moments, whether they be incidents or movements that drive forward the civil rights of a certain group. And you think, in African American culture, it was the bombing in Selma, and you had Rosa Parks, and you think, in the 1970s it was Cesar Chavez with the Great Boycott. But if you look at the movement in the gay community, what happened, I mean, if you think about the 70s, think about Three's Company, where, the punchline was that Jack was supposed to be gay and he lived with 2 girls. And we were laughing at that. We weren't laughing with the community. So we were punching down. And I think you had several things that happened, like Matthew Shepard. The death of Matthew Shepard was a big one that brought people's attention to just the absolute oppression. And I think even through culture, because like movies and music, you had everything from, Philadelphia, I think, was a huge movie that brought that to the forefront. I think Will and Grace was another one. And I think even Ellen, like the original Ellen show, when she came out, those are all really big things. So I think someone your age came into a different world than like we grew up in when it was, I'm a recovering Catholic, and, Catholics were not, especially Irish Catholics, were not fond of their gays. So,
I just saw Jeremy roll his eyes.
No.
Yeah.
So a lot of other people paved the way and made great strides. So now we're at a point where the community is accepting, but there was, it wasn't until the summer of 2017 that I saw a rainbow flag flying in a public area that was visible, and it was at St. Luke's Church in Eastport. And I said, that's really interesting. Like, it's the first rainbow flag I've seen in Annapolis, and it's at a church.
Let's throw that back again. The summer of 2017.
So just a few years ago.
So we have not hit the summer of 2019 yet. So this is less than 2 years ago.
Correct.
Is that the same church that had the Black Lives Matter flag that kept getting ripped down?
No, St. Luke's is in Eastport. That's the one that's in the little gully that they just did the remediation for the water. And they've been a very accepting church. They've been a great church. They host Cub Scout packs with me, and I know there's a bunch of great people that are in there. But that was the first time you really ever saw an outward...
There's the first time I remember ever seeing a rainbow flag in Annapolis. I'm sure there were others, but that was the first one that I saw.
Were you comfortable? Because my brother-in-law is gay, and he grew up in a very conservative town in Appalachia, and he told me his story, just how difficult. I mean, he never really did come out, and he's in his late 50s. For someone like you, and my daughter goes to public school, and she knew kids who were 12, 11, 12, 13 that had come out already, and they were accepted. Did you have any difficulty coming out, or was this a revelation to you? It
was certainly challenging. There was no, you didn't see it anywhere. It wasn't something that people talked about. It was just something that you didn't want to be associated with because it was hardship. It was suffering. It was, it was not something that was normal. I think even until, somewhat recent history, it was considered a psychological issue. So it was just treated much differently. There was no gay straight alliances in the schools. There was no, community organizations. And until Annapolis Pride, in Anne Arundel County, there was no visibility, and there's very little visibility.
Now, there used to be and I'm going to mess up the name, but I'm going to say Pride Day down at Mayo Beach Park several years ago. I mean, it was an annual thing, and it was a great family event. I had attended a couple different times for there, but that went away. I know that the sort of the leadership of that sort of just burned out on doing it, and I get how that happens. Are you taking up from where they left, or is this a totally different organization?
This is a totally different organization. I did learn about Chesapeake Pride.
That's the name of it.
Yep, Chesapeake Pride, but I never knew about it. I never attended. So I think it's in the area, that was the closest thing that we had to a Pride celebration.
Right. Now, what was the tipping point to form Annapolis Pride?
So I think when I saw the rainbow flag at St. Luke's Church in the summer, it got the wheels turning, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had more rainbow flags in Annapolis, and that anybody, especially young people that are struggling with their gender or sexuality, they would see that as a sign of hope, and that they're not alone, and that they belong in this
community. Acceptance, absolutely.
So, and originally it just started as a campaign to just build visibility and community in Annapolis, through the Facebook page, and encouraging businesses and organizations to show their inclusiveness in a public way, because visibility increases safety.
Sure, without a doubt. And where do we learn more about Annapolis Pride? We'll plug this a couple times as we're talking about this, but I mean, obviously you've got a Facebook page. You can just search Annapolis Pride. And is there a website?
So there is a website.
It's a really good one too.
AnnapolisPride.org, and we're putting new information up there all the time. We have our events there. There's forms if you want to volunteer or get involved with the parade or festival. But we post a lot on Facebook, so we post all our events there and news. So that's a great way to stay in touch with us.
It really is. You're a nonprofit?
So we are seeking 501c3 nonprofit status. Currently, we have a nonprofit sponsor, which is Make Your Mark Media. Okay. So we are Make Your Mark Media doing business as Annapolis Pride until we have our own 501c3.
So if we throw money at you, it will be tax deductible at this point, but it won't be tax deductible to Annapolis
Correct.
Pride.
It will go through Make Your Mark Media, but donations can be made to Annapolis Pride, and you can receive a tax deductible donation form.
Now, the organization, when you started this, okay, obviously it started out as an organization of one because Jeremy saw a flag outside of the church in Eastport.
Which would be a pretty lonely parade, by the way, at that point.
How did it grow? I mean, was it organic through Facebook, just through some friends? So
it was organic, and I had, there was a small group of friends, and we really felt that there was enough of us here to build a community and to have events. We had Pomerantz Marketing made us a great logo and graphics, and we put it up on the Facebook page.
I like Pomerantz.
And it started growing interest right away. And then within a week or so, we had requested the mayor to do a proclamation to declare June Pride Month, and they said absolutely. 2 weeks after that, Claire from the Crofton area reached out to the mayor's office, and they organized a impromptu march on June 19th of 2018, and that was we marched from Main Street up to the hotel.
That horrible rainy day.
Yes, it was. It rained on our little parade, but it didn't stop us.
I do remember that day. That was a pretty miserable day, but as far as the weather goes, but it was wonderful. And we are planning a parade. I don't have the exact date. You probably do, for this June as well, in June 19. And there's going to be a whole week with a whole bunch of different events that go around that, which I'm sure are probably incredibly busy with planning at this point to figure out where it is. How big do you think your membership, and I know that's hard to say at this point, but I mean, how many supporters do you have, which might be a gauge of like how many people do you have on your Facebook page that are following you, do you have a couple thousand or?
So we have over 5,000 followers on Facebook now, and the parade and festival will be held on June 29th in Annapolis. And the event is already up on our Facebook page, so you can go there and RSVP and you'll stay up to date. But I would say, Anne Arundel County has about 600,000 residents. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of members of the LGBTQ community would go to Baltimore or DC to find community. So
sure. Strength in numbers, it's a big city.
Yeah, we're trying to build community here in Annapolis. So I think there's probably a lot more that just have gone elsewhere.
I think in anything, Annapolis is a little bit different than DC or Baltimore. And just, it's not as buttoned up, certainly, as DC can be. It's not a big metropolitan city. It's just a different vibe in Annapolis for anything. And I would think that would carry over to the LGBTQ plus. And there's so many initials after that at this point that I lose track.
Annapolis is fairly liberal when it comes to situations like this.
It is.
And I think that it's fairly welcoming for the most part. We're a purple county, and so I'm going to be stereotypical and say that if you're conservative, that's where you're going to tend to get the pushback. And not to say all conservatives, I think you're making great inroads with that as well. But I think that, as like we said a few minutes ago, that the movement has been wildly successful for the last 10 years, even if it didn't start out as a movement in and of itself. But the acceptance and the visibility, what do you think are the challenges moving forward? I mean, because I think that we're talking about anti-discrimination laws, gay marriage. These are all things that are moving very rapidly in a positive direction. But what challenges do you still see for the community?
So I think there are still a lot of challenges. We have made a lot of progress in the last 10 years, but outside of DC and Baltimore and the larger cities,
the coast,
there still isn't, even though it might be an accepting community, there's not a lot of visibility. So for someone that's struggling, they might not know that it's an accepting area. They might not know where to find resources or to find support. So in Annapolis, if it's hard, people message the page all the time, where can I find this, or where can my 15-year-old son go? So there's still a lot of gaps that we're hoping to create safe spaces where everyone feels welcome.
Well, there have, and you've created several of them. I know that you've had several events at the Eastport Democratic Club, which I think is hysterical under some circumstances, because it's sort of become the hub for Annapolis Pride for some of the events. You had a Halloween party there, which I understand was just off the charts, incredibly fun. And, so I mean, I think that, and I know you've had a couple different, I'll say, social gatherings there, and you do have them periodically, and you've got, I'm assuming you've got some sort of a leadership board that's sort of helping you run, and sort of guide this whole thing as it moves through. When you started this, did you find resistance? I mean, of course, no matter what your position is, whether I say the sky is blue, there's going to be some asshole that's going to sit there and say, absolutely not, it's gray. I mean, did you find a lot of resistance when Annapolis Pride came on the scene?
Thankfully, no, we did not experience a lot of resistance. We were welcome with open arms. There was an individual that was a member of the LGBTQ community that was concerned that we would be encouraging people to be more visible, and that there would be a spike in hate crimes, and that the police department and the local government would not do anything about it. This was before Annapolis Pride ever launched on Facebook. I had already started building a relationship with the Annapolis Police Department, and I knew that they were supportive and that they would
on top of
protect and serve everybody. And then, the mayor's office has been extremely supportive. So I think there was a fear that the local, government here might not be supportive, but that's not the case.
That's tremendous, and I'm glad that they were false fears that your friend had expressed there. So that's very encouraging for the city Are you expanding out? I mean, you mentioned you were in Crofton for the parade. Are there plans for expansion into other parts? I mean, obviously you're centric to Annapolis.
So yeah, we're centric to Annapolis, but I really see our audience to be anybody that lives, works, or plays in Annapolis, that visits Annapolis. So that stretches out to I would say most of Anne Arundel County and parts of the Eastern Shore, parts of PG County. So a lot of people that are coming to our events are coming from, even some of them are coming from the Bowie area, they're coming from Queen Anne's County, some are even coming from Howard County. So, your options right now or in the past have been DC or Baltimore. So now This is another safe space that people can come, and we're really working, with businesses and community groups to, welcome and to show that they're inclusive. And a lot of them have hosted events with us. They've said they're going to, have a flag out for Pride Month.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting when I owned several travel agencies in a prior life. And one of the organizations that I affiliated with is with the LGBTQ was not around at that point, but Travel Association. And we had received one large account from a travel manager who happened to be gay, and he wanted to deal with people that were there. We weren't a gay travel agency per se. I mean, wasn't a specialty that we did, but we were certainly very friendly and open and accepting of pretty much every lifestyle. And it was funny as you mentioned, seeing the flag in the church, when we had the sticker that we put on the door, we found that we did get a lot of clientele. And I mean, it was almost like putting this giant searchlight for like the Annapolis Film Festival, out there. And it's important to be at a place that you're comfortable with. I mean, we had agents that were very in tune with, the needs and the desires of, how the community travels. I mean, from a travel perspective, okay, typically you don't have children. I know obviously that, there's adoption and everything else. There's a little bit more expendable income that a couple may have and everything else, and they just travel. They like the experiences a little bit more than the destinations and stuff. So it was just very interesting to see how that all played out there. One of the questions I get on Eye on Annapolis, and actually through our Facebook page, All Annapolis, is where are the quote good gay bars in Annapolis? And I can sit there and say that we don't have any quote gay bars in Annapolis.
Can I guess? Tsunami?
Yeah.
You just nodded. Yeah.
Tsunami's been popular for a long time, and before I was of age, I know they had a very popular Wednesday night gathering, and it kind of faded away by the time I was of age.
Well, Tsunami also was the one that had they tried to drag brunch way back when for a hot minute that wasn't very well accepted. Oh. And that was probably back in 90.
Yeah, right there. That's your problem.
98. But, I don't think we have what we consider a gay bar. I mean, you go into D.C. and there's, a number of them. Into Baltimore there is as well. But we certainly do have a lot of places. Where would somebody feel comfortable eating and drinking, coming from your perspective? I mean, I do recommend Tsunami, and I do recommend Lemongrass. I think that, Preserve is another one down on Main Street. And there's plenty that not that you would feel out of place. I would probably say there may be 2 or 3 that you'd be like, okay, well, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
So there's, I would say most of the bars and restaurants are, I would say, allies. The challenge is that, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community and you're looking to socialize with your peers, it's hard to find a place like, where is everybody hanging out? And it's sort of, everyone's dispersed. So I would, like you said, Tsunami is friendly, Metropolitan, Sailor. There's lots of friendly places to go.
You're not on the payroll of the Mirror, are you?
No. Now they've been the most outwardly, Sailor has a rainbow flag flying all year round. It's not even Pride Month and the rainbow flag's out. So I'd say it's a good ally establishment.
Well, what I'm kind of hearing is that the community is really sort of homogenized into, the LGBT community is really sort of homogenizing into the larger community that, this section of the LGBT community likes Acme because it's rowdy and they, okay, so don't make the,
but that brings me up to a question I've always had, because when you look at, if, you're taking a group together, that, community. So whether it be the Black community, the Hispanic community, or Latino community, I think that the LGBTQ community is very similar to the Latino because they're seen as a monolithic group from the outside. So you say the Latino, the Hispanic community in the country, but they're very different. Salvadorians are very different than the Cubans, who are very different than the Mexicans, who are very different than the Dominicans. They have different culture, they have different customs, they have different foods, they have all these things. So when we look at the LGBTQ community who are together, banded together for acceptance, but internally they have different interests, a gay community within that versus the lesbian community versus the trans community. So to say, do all these segments of the movement, are there any differences between them in so much as the discrimination they face or the goals that they have or even the things that they like?
There's certainly a wide spectrum of differences and experiences that people have in the community and different levels of privilege. That's without a doubt. But I think right now there's still a need and a desire to have a dedicated space, or gay bar, if you will, in the city. I think there's a lot of people that would be really happy to see that. And like I said, if you look at the number of people that live outside of or nearby Annapolis, and the number of people that drive through Annapolis in the summer to go to the beach,
sure,
let's give them a reason to stop and let's build a safe space here.
All right. So if anybody's got some cash burning their holes in their pockets, looking to invest in a new bar or restaurant, give me a call and I'll put you in touch with Jeremy and we'll get it going. I agree. I think that everybody does need a place, but I also think that I don't think you find Latinos or Hispanics that are going into traditionally we'll say non-Hispanic or Latino place feel uncomfortable, which I think says something a little bit about the acceptance of Annapolis.
Well, I'll say that about the Ebb Tide. I've always said that. If the Ebb Tide, which is the biggest dive in town, but you go there and you have people who own sailboats, like all the Sperry people, and then you have the working class white people, then you have the black folks from town come in and they're there, and the Latinos are shooting
white
pool.
Collar, blue collar,
it
no
is everybody.
Collar. It's all.
That is Ellis Island right there.
It's all there. Ebb Tide. Do you like the Ebb Tide?
I've actually never been.
Oh, you're missing out, my friend.
I've heard it's.
What kind of loser are you here, man?
That is my favorite dive in town.
Do you like a good burger?
Yes.
Bacon burger?
Sure.
Ebb Tide, got to go. And they're closing at the end of January of 2020. So you gotta.
I'm in denial about that.
I have time.
You got some time, but you got to get in there before they close and try one of their burgers.
Hey, do you know what? If they're closing, that leaves a space right there. That's what we're talking about, right?
Ooh,
keep the chef.
Good point. Yeah. Good point. And they the lease won't let them be anything but a dive bar.
Is it really?
Yeah, the owners. That's the deal.
I've actually been losing sleep about that.
And it's I was talking to Ashley yesterday, and she said that it's in there. And what happens if it needs a lot of repair and constant sort of plugging the holes in the walls and everything else. Yeah. And they said that they couldn't level it and build it up without having to build with the new building codes, and that's too expensive to support what the lease is calling for.
If you go in the pool room, the slate floor is so bad that you trip the whole way. It's great. I love that place.
That just has nothing to do with the consumption of your alcohol?
I am actually a good-looking person in that place. It doesn't happen anywhere else but there.
Yeah, but I mean that may not be a bad idea. It's a good idea, Tim.
I've never had to go somewhere as a straight person and think I never think about my experiences in the terms of being straight or being a white guy. I've never thought about it. I mean, when they talk about privilege, I'm not being super liberal here, but I was just thinking about that. Is that when you think about a gay bar or about a gay cruise or something like that, I've never had to think of any of my experiences in terms of my sexuality. That's got to be something that is when that's your identity. That's being straight's not my identity. Being white's not my identity, but the perception outside is that is. So whereas for I think whether you want it to be or not, especially when you're in a prominent position in founding this group, is that something that ever you're conscious of, or is it something that bothers you, or is it?
Absolutely, it's something I'm aware of. So everyone has a level of privilege. So I know that I can walk into any place in Annapolis and no one's going to turn their head, but that's not the case for everybody. So I feel like I need to use my privilege to lift others up and give them a voice where they might not have one.
I'll tell you, we did one of my favorite podcasts we did was with, and I don't know whether you may know of him, but Brittany Girl-Dale up in Brooklyn Park. And he is a gay guy that cross-dresses. He said ultimately he would like to, transform, get a sex change into a woman. But he is just, he's got so many problems. I mean, it goes back to abuse when a child and the whole 9 yards, and he's on disability. He dances out on Ritchie Highway and thongs and everything else. And we talk with him, and I absolutely just love this guy, okay, because he has such a verve for life, and he doesn't care. And here's a guy that's got all these problems, and gosh knows how much is swimming around in his head. But and I don't say he doesn't care in a mean way, but the fact that I look at you and go, "Oh, you're a freak. You're dancing in women's clothes in the middle of the highway," it has zero effect on him. And I'm thinking, that has got to be a great way to go through life to a certain degree.
Well, to be that comfortable with yourself, it's got to be amazing.
And I mean, he's just great. I mean, I run into him. He's always like, "Oh, hey, baby." It's people look at me going like, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Oh, this is Dale. He's great. He's great." But it's got to be tough to just to sit there and do that. And it's got to be great to be able to sit there and see that it's changing, and it's changing very, very fast over the years. I know. Do you remember Scott Bowling?
Mm-hmm. Passed away. Yeah.
When let's see, Maryland started. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but Maryland at one point recognized same-sex marriage, but you couldn't get married in Maryland. So he and his husband were married in D.C., and they were first in line on the first day to get recognized as a same-sex couple in Maryland. So he's got certificate number 1, if you will, to do that. And then they had another local wedding when they ultimately were able to legalize it here, a second pseudo wedding with a reception and everything else. And it was just such an important part. I mean, I think you sit there and you look at what we've changed.
But let's think about what happened to him before he died. Is that he was running,
he was running for political office in Ward 3, and there were
ugly, just hideous flyers that were put out.
Hide your wife, or hide your husband, hide your children.
Everyone knew who did it, and everyone knew who was involved in that.
This is a gay guy, and he's hunting your children. And it was horrible. And I mean, there was a little bit of an FBI investigation and everything else that went in there.
Which is ridiculous because, again, we all knew who it was, and no one says it out loud, but everyone knows who that was. And there were people who are still in office now who knew about it. And they pretended they didn't, and everyone knows that.
That's the whole all's fair in politics.
Look what's happening to Cory Booker right now. I mean, Cory Booker, he's running for president, and there's the rumors out there, and people say ugly rumors going that he's gay. I don't know if he is or not, but when you say it's ugly, is it ugly? I mean, but when you hold it over someone's head. So we think we have moved forward a lot, but I think that you still have the issues that are lingering there, especially with, my father-in-law just passed away, and he's a great guy. I love him to death, but he's a generation that he couldn't wrap his head around people being gay or lesbian, let alone trans. I mean, that for him was just too much. I think for the older generations, you're just not going to be able to do it. It's just time.
It is. I know I've got a good friend of mine that is probably approaching 60 and was married and has a couple kids, was divorced, has realized for a good long time, probably a lot longer than he remembers that he remembers it, that he was gay. And just recently he came out. I keep joking with him that his next Christmas present is going to be the coming out tour with the dates and the people that he did. But and he said it was the most liberating thing to do, to be able to do that, to tell the ex-wife, absolutely terrifying to tell your kids, who were the most accepting of everybody. The good friend from college that was that I sat there and pulled the old macho, the gays and the fags, and all of that it was just the most accepting, liberating thing, and I have never seen him happier in his life in the last 2 years than he's continued on his coming out tour. When he sees people, we went to a high school reunion, and it was like, hey, this is me, and everyone's like, this is great.
How old were you? Do you mind asking?
I was 22 when I came out, and I was still finishing school.
But did you always know?
Yeah, I always knew. And what I feel that people don't tell you when you come out is that you have to come out over and over and over again. So because I was
you get sick of it. You have like a script.
They don't have that section that classifies in the Capitol.
I mean, my comfort with it changed based on the group or the circumstances. So each semester you had 5 new classes and a whole bunch of new people, and it was like, oh, okay, so now I get to come out all over again. And In some cases, I never did because it wasn't really relevant, but your comfort level is.
Yeah, again, because I've never had to tell anyone. Again, we're talking about that. I've never had to go. By the way, I'm straight, just so you know. I would never introduce myself. Go, well, I work here, my family, and I'm straight. Just so you know. But that's something expected out of the LBGTQ community.
Not necessarily. I mean, now I don't even think about it. I don't. You come out without saying I'm gay. You come out by just being yourself.
Through actions
and saying, it comes out in conversation because you're saying I'm going with my partner to go see his parents. Or, you don't even think about it.
Right. When I talked about the podcast, I said something once. I said, well, I'm working with my partner on this podcast. And I didn't realize till a week later, I'm like, oh, she thinks I'm gay.
Yeah. I mean, I
can do so much better than John.
The code words. It's funny. I think that a lot of people are getting, colorblind to black or white. You don't really see it and everything else. Well, some people do and some people don't. I mean, it was funny. I went to, do you ever go to any of the gay bars in D.C.?
I haven't been in a while.
Okay, Nellie's?
Of course, Nellie's.
Okay. Is that notorious?
It's a fun bar. It's a fun sports bar, and if Nellie's wants to open one here, we'd be really happy.
Well, my daughter was at a show at the 930 Club, and it was some god-awful band that I didn't want to see. So I said, okay, well, I'll just go and have dinner and drinks and whatnot. And I walked, as a straight guy, I walked into Nellie's. I sat down, and I was like texting or tweeting somebody that I was there, and I totally didn't recognize. Then somebody says, "So why are you in like this gay bar?" And I'm looking around. I'm like, "Oh, how about that? Yeah, it's all I had no clue."
One of the best bars, frankly,
and it was great. I mean, it had a very good burger. Everything was friendly. It was awesome. I was incredibly entertained in the men's room because they had.
Okay, let's be careful here.
Yeah, here's where it goes downhill. No, in the urinals, they had like little soccer nets for those little deodorant things. The deodorants they put in. And it had a little soccer net with a ball hanging down on a string. So as any guy knows, when there's something floating around in the toilet, you take a name for it.
Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast, by the way.
I'm sure probably turned around and cut down their maintenance costs and their cleaning costs incredibly. Yeah, the room got awfully quiet with my urinal talk. So okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, I think that I think people are starting to get colorblind, and as you said, I mean, there's no need to come out. I mean, that's hi, my name is Jeremy Browning, CPA, or whatever is fine. I mean, there's no reason to put that out. I mean, I don't care. I mean, if I've got an interest in you romantically, then that's a conversation we need to have, but not. In day-to-day conversation, I mean, what's it matter?
So what do you see with the future of this? So you have your first parade coming up. Well, break down the parade.
Second parade.
Second. I'm sorry. What are we going to be taught? What's the parade? I didn't go last year because it was raining.
So I guess last year was a march. So this will be our first official LGBTQ Pride Parade.
So it's not as aggressive as because marches mean you're going up there with gritted teeth, and this one you're like, all right, we're more laid back.
I guess I see what you're saying. So this is a celebration. This June actually marks the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots that occurred in New York City, which was many people consider as the beginning of the gay rights movement or the LGBTQ rights movement. So this is
hold on. Let's take this quick because I just learned about them last year. I'd never heard about that. Tell us about that.
So there was a gay bar in the West Village called the Stonewall Inn, and they were being repeatedly harassed and discriminated against and beaten up by the police. And this was an uprising to say, hey, look, we're here and we deserve to be here. And we're not going to take this anymore. So that was the beginning of the, what many consider as the beginning of the LGBTQ rights movement. And that was 50 years ago in June. So we have we've come a long way since then. So it's a time to celebrate. It's a time to reflect on where we still need to go. For Annapolis, because it's the first time, it's an opportunity for us to connect with the rest of the community and say, hey, we're here, we're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your family. Please come out and support us.
One thing that, and you talk about the supporters, it's not necessarily, when you have the parade, it's not going to be a bunch of, necessarily, gay men and women or trans men and women and everything else. It's the supporters. And again, you look at your families and whatnot, I'm constantly amazed at today's youth as how accepting. I know my girlfriend has a daughter, and she has a friend that was, transitioning or trying to figure out, what was, and the question I said, well, and it had a human name. It was like an animal name. It was like, okay, like cheetah. So is cheetah a man or a boy or a girl? And the answer was, well, what's it matter? And it really got us thinking. It's like, wow, okay, valid point from a 17-year-old. And I think that's great that you sit there and see that. I think there obviously are some problems in high schools and whatnot, but I think it's getting a lot better, a lot more accepting than it was. And I think that's good. I think the high schools now have adopted the I don't want to screw up the name, but Global Citizen curriculum that they tested up at Arundel High, which is now going to be required of every freshman coming in starting next year. And it's more acceptance and inclusion of everybody, and that goes into
And there's pushback to that too. Mm-hmm. You saw that a
little bit. There's a flyer saying that it's trying to indoctrinate into that left wing Main Street media agenda, but and everybody that's been through the program up at Arundel High and the people that have seen it have all said, no, it's great. And it's not necessarily about any kind of an agenda. And it's just something, I think it's a message that needs to be reinforced. And hopefully they'll get rid of the program in 4 years because it will have been so successful and we're beyond that. Right now we're living in a very weird time where, vitriol and insults are de rigueur, certainly on Twitter. And it's showing. And I think it's time that we do something with that. How many people do you expect in the parade?
I have no idea. I hope a whole bunch.
What's it cost to be in the parade?
So for nonprofits, it's $75, and for business,
okay, we haven't made a profit yet, have we, Tim?
No.
So $75.
The opposite of a profit.
For nonprofits, it's $75. For profit, it's $150.
Okay.
There's opportunities to sponsor the parade and festival starting at $500. So for $500, you get either the parade or festival. For $1,000, you can have both. And then there's some other levels beyond that.
Okay. What's the festival going to entail? Do you know?
So it's going to be similar in scope to the First Sunday Arts Festival.
Okay.
So we'll have some vendors and exhibitors that support the LGBTQ community. We'll have hopefully some entertainment mixed in there. And
where it'll be down at City Dock?
It'll be on West Street.
Okay, so then what's your parade route going to be?
So we haven't submitted our permits with the city, but it looks like it will be from the West End to Calvert Street.
And that's pretty much similar to the Labor Day Parade or Memorial Day Parade, where it just sort of comes down and takes a left on Calvert Street and disappears into the...
Yep, and then the festival will be right there. So the parade will finish where the festival
on the first block of West Street.
Yep, all on the same day.
Free to attend?
Free to attend.
What band would you like to have play? Who are your bands? Who are the bands that Jeremy Browning likes?
I couldn't tell you. I have...
No?
That's not my specialty.
Fair.
I hope we have a great variety of entertainment of local artists, from the community. I think that would be wonderful.
And I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. I think it's certainly the arts community that's here in Annapolis is very supportive of that and everything else. So, well, I'll tell you what. I think everybody needs to go check out AnnapolisPride.org. Find them on Facebook. Find out all the stuff that they're up to, and it's only going to grow. Which is really kind of neat. And I think that one of the things that drew me to Annapolis way back when was its inclusivity and its casualness of everything. And I think that you've gone a long way to lead that on another group of people that need to be included in any number of different ways. Jeremy did bring us some Annapolis Pride magnets to go on the back of the car, and I'll put mine on a little bit later on today. But I am an incredible supporter of bringing this in. I thank you for spearheading it and doing it. I think your insight is invaluable. I think well on your way to resurrecting what was the remnants, I guess, of Chesapeake Pride. And I know that 3 or 4 of my friends that are involved with Annapolis Pride directly are thrilled. So I got, kudos to you. That's for sure.
Well, we're just getting started, and we're excited to be here in the community and be welcomed by so many.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. And that was Jeremy Browning.
He's a great guy.
He was very nice, yeah.
And we are recording this separately, but I ran into him last night at the Wendy Winters PR Bazaar.
Oh, yeah.
He was there. Great guy.
I heard that was a pretty big deal.
It was. We had a really good turnout there. Annapolis and the area is really going out for Pride Week. Pride Month. And just for people that are interested in it, I've got a whole list. Look at my list. You see this? This is a list.
It is a list. It's all scribbled and everything.
That's my pad.
Yeah, it's just
on there.
Hit my mic.
But if you are interested, I'm just going to go down here. But on Sunday the 9th at 12:30 at Ram's Head on Stage, they've got a drag brunch, and they've had 4 or 5 of these, and they've been wildly successful. I don't know if tickets are still available, but they are a lot of fun. You've got Pride Night at the Bowie Baysox on Thursday the 13th, and I have a bunch of tickets for the Bowie Baysox.
Bragger.
Yeah, so let's give away some. How many you want to give away?
How many do you have?
I didn't ask that. How many you want to give away?
I want to give away 10.
You want to give away 10?
I do.
Okay. How should they win a pair of tickets? That's 5 pair.
Well, let's see the first people who email us I'll tell you what, we have 10. So we'll just, as when someone asks us for a ticket, we'll give them away no more than 2. Well, we give them away in pairs, right?
Yeah, give them away in pairs. So we got 5 pairs.
All right. So we have 5 pairs. So you can either email us at info@themarylandcrabs.com and say, give me my ticket, or you can tweet at us, right?
Yeah.
At MD Crabs Podcast on Twitter, or you can hit us up on either our Facebook group or our page and just say, give me our tickets. And when all 5 pairs are gone, then they're all gone, unless you have more stashed under your pillow or wherever.
That's
you
right.
keep them.
And then you have to be a little bit cooperative with us because we got to get the tickets to you because they're hard tickets. And the game is on the 13th.
Okay.
Friday the 14th. It's 3 centuries of queer history. It's a walking tour of Annapolis. Annapolis apparently has a very long and storied gay history.
Charles Carroll.
That we don't necessarily know about. You may not hear about it on the typical walking tours. This is free. It gets 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It gets underway at Harry Brown's. Looking at Saturday the 15th at the Anne Arundel County Public Library. This is the Broadneck one. They're having a conversation with a transgendered woman, and it's what's it mean to be transgendered.
Isn't someone on the board now who's transgendered?
They just, and I believe it is the same woman, but they just elected, they both appointed a new woman to the board of directors for the library that is openly transgendered.
Oh, that's cool.
Which really is. Sunday the 23rd, you've got a paddle pride with capital SUP. Now, they have relocated from where they were in Eastport. They're now at the Annapolis Maritime Museum and Park, but they're on the park side, which is down off of Edgewood Road in the near the Ellen Moyer Nature Park.
Yes, you go all the way back down towards
Saturday the 29th at noon. It is the big event. It is the inaugural Annapolis Pride Parade and Festival. And this will get underway at Maryland Hall, come down West Street, around Church Circle, down Main Street, wind up down at City Dock, where they are going to have the festival down at the City Dock area, which will be a lot of fun. It's really kind of cool that the city's embraced that. The parade gets underway at noon.
Okay, that's my kind of parade.
Also on Saturday the 29th at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Again, the libraries are jumping in here, and it is a drag queen story time. This one's up in Severna Park. They did one of those. It was very controversial before. And this one will be controversial again.
I don't know if it's controversial. It's just you have random people on Facebook who are just like all crotchety about it. And it's
all right. Here's my take on this. And I got into this with somebody not too long ago. I said, oh my gosh, I don't want my kids exposed to that. Great. No. Awesome. Okay. Did you take the kids to a story time at the library and all of a sudden out pops a drag queen? No, you didn't. It was advertised as a drag queen story time. So, I mean, it's not like they're surprising anybody on this. I
would be a little surprised if I went. I mean, I would be pleasantly surprised if I went and a drag queen popped out suddenly. I'd go, it's a drag queen. And
you scared me.
Yeah, let's read me my story.
But they've got 2 of them at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. at the Severna Park Library, drag queen story time with the Anne Arundel County Public Libraries. And not specifically with Pride Month, but on the 30th, the city is going to be doing their 3rd annual color run, which are a lot of fun. It's a 5K. Sort of a 5K around.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Gets underway at 9 a.m.
That's not my kind of
at
event.
Maryland Hall. And Gavin started that thing when he was running. It was sort of a stunt to get elected, and then he did it last year. But we're a weak color parade because typically on the ones that they do or the color run, they typically throw balls of colored powder on people.
Right.
The historic muckety mucks got all bent out of shape on that.
That's odd.
And they said no, so we had to have like temporary food coloring and water pistols.
Ward 1 should just have a sign in front of Ward 1 saying, "Welcome to Ward 1. Stay off our lawn."
Leave.
They're the most unfun, crotchety group of people. And you know what? I don't care if you send me emails. You know, I eat it up. It cranks.
Well, I'll tell you, you can find all these events as well as a couple more that I didn't mention on the Annapolis Pride Facebook page. I do recommend that you go there, give them a like. Check out what they're doing. They have weekly events going on, a lot smaller. So if you want to support our LGBTQ ?
You're getting better at that.
Yeah, I know. Community, give them a look. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'm going. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks much. And we'll see you at the parade.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them at all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.